What's up everybody, it's The River Gaming here, and today I'm going to take you through my attempt at a Pokémon SoulSilver HARDCORE NUZLOCKE. For those of you who might not know, a Nuzlocke run includes additional rules that make the game more difficult. I can only catch the first Pokémon I encounter in each area, fainted Pokémon are considered dead and must be permanently boxed, and all captured Pokémon must have nicknames. The hardcore editions include playing on the set battle mode, only held items are allowed in battle, and I can't overlevel my Pokémon past the next gym leader's ace. I also play with dupes or species clause so that I can increase the variety within my encounters. If I run into a Pokemon I've already caught on a previous route, I'm allowed to re-roll my encounter until I find a new species. However, each evolutionary line can only be used once. I'll include a full list of the rules in the description below. Now, I've been a fan of the Pokemon games for a long time, but I have to admit that as time went on, my interest started to wane a bit as they stopped feeling like much of a challenge. So as I learned more about hardcore Nuzlockes, I decided to mix my love of Pokemon with my incessant need to overcomplicate things. Nuzlocke runs, and especially the hardcore variety, keep things interesting by encouraging players to use Pokemon and strategies they might not typically need to rely on. This concept can be accentuated even further through restrictions or some sort of theme like monotype runs or playing as Team Rocket. I'm sure I'll get into some of those ideas in the future, but for my first attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke, I decided to keep things relatively simple with what I guess you'd call a standard run. Silver was the first game I ever owned, so the Gen 4 remake for SoulSilver seemed like a fun place to start my very first hardcore Nuzlocke experience. Here's how it went. I begin my journey by picking up a starter Pokemon from Professor Elm, and I decide to go with Cyndaquil because fire types are typically pretty useful but can be hard to come by. Starlord the Cyndaquil has an adamant nature, which is a little unfortunate because Typhlosion's best stat is its special attack, but the plus attack will still probably be useful early on. I run an errand by visiting Mr. Pokemon and Professor Oak, but on the way back I run into my rival for the first time. He decides to pick a fight, but it's only the first rival battle, so it's pretty straightforward and a crit tackle really seals his fate. After being accused of robbing the lab, Lyra bails me out and then even gives me some Pokeballs, so I'm finally able to start my catching spree. I find my first encounter on Route 29, which turns out to be a level 2 Pidgey. Nothing too exciting, but I catch it and nickname it Pudge, because I'm not very good at nicknames. Up next on my list of encounters is a level 2 Spearow who I find on Route 46, who I catch and nickname Javelin. My encounter on Route 30 turns out to be a Kakuna rather than a Weedle, which is going to be pretty annoying to train up, but at least it gets a funny nickname. Javelin has an impish nature, which is minus special attack and plus defense, while Matata has a bold nature, which is minus attack and plus defense again. I continue on and find a level 3 Bellsprout on Route 31, who I nickname Bella, and then I hop into the Dark Cave to find a level 3 Geodude who I nickname Lebowski. With that, I arrive in Violet City, but before I can challenge Faulkner at his gym, I need to clear the challenge at Sprout Tower. Javelin the Spearow is able to take out all the Bellsprout trainers pretty easily, but I also wait until nightfall so that I can catch Ghastly. I won't be able to perform any trade evolutions, so I name him not Gengar. I do a bit more grinding towards the level cap, but the only one I'm really going to be using is Lebowski the Geodude. I start off with a Rock Polish, and then a single Rock Throw takes out the Pidgey. The Pidgeotto still outspeeds, so after doing a lot of damage with a Rock Throw, I set up another Rock Polish because I know Pidgeotto is going to spam Roost, and then another volley of Rock Throws wins me the badge. Before moving forward, I pick up a mystery egg from Professor Elm's assistant, and then run around the city like a maniac in order to hatch the Togepi. I mainly did this because I wasn't sure how egg encounters count, so I didn't want a hatching Togepi to take up an encounter down the line. It is still nighttime, so as I continue on to Route 32, I actually run into a Wooper. I was hoping to find a Mareep as a counter to my rival's Totodile, but there it is, the Wooper ends up having Water Absorb, adding another useful immunity so that I can use it for pivoting into safe switches. My encounter in Union Cave ends up being a Rattata, and I actually skip my encounter on Route 33 so that I can save it for a Headbutt tree after I have access to the Ilex Forest. I follow Kurt into the Slowpoke Well, and then I pick up a Zubat who I name Bruce before clearing out the rest of Team Rocket following a few quick battles. Bugsy's gym is up next, and once again Lebowski plays a starring role with her defenses and super effective rock throws. Bugsy's Scyther is pretty scary with Technician and Focus Energy, but after U-turning back into Metapod, I'm actually able to set up Defense Curls and Rock Polishes. The Rock Polishes do end up being kinda useless because I'm still outsped by Scyther, but my Shell Bell keeps me healthy. Scyther keeps chipping away with U-turn, but once there's nowhere else to run, a quad super effective Rock Throw takes her out. With Bugsy taken care of, I do some grinding to prepare for the upcoming rival fight, and Cyndaquil evolves into Quilava as I get my Bellsprout up to speed. With the rest of the team sufficiently trained, I go into the second rival fight, leading with Spearow to deal with his Ghastly. Spearow's part normal typing means that Ghastly can't really touch him, so a couple of pursuits take him out. Croconaw doesn't have Ice Fang yet, so I stay in with Spearow and start using Growl to lower his attack. I think the AI just wanted to match stat changes, so although he already outspeeds me, the Croconaw keeps spamming Scary Face as I use Growl. I swap into Bella, as Croconaw keeps up the Scary Faces, and I miss my first Poison Powder, but the second one lands. The extra damage from Poison helps whittle him down, and the Croconaw goes down after some Vine Whips. Zubat is up last, but Lebowski is more than a match for it. I continue into Ilex Forest, where I find an Oddish that I nickname Dr. Strange, and more importantly, I find this guy ramming his head into a tree. I get him to teach Headbutt to Star-Lord, and now I've got access to some awesome encounters. I backtrack to Route 33 in hopes of finding a Heracross, and because I've already got a Spearow, I'm able to re-roll until I find one that I name Hercules. He ends up having a sassy nature, which is minus speed, which is unfortunate, but with the ability Guts, he's going to be an absolute powerhouse. I do also get an Aipom from a tree in Azalea Town, but it's got Runaway instead of Pickup, so I just leave him in the box. Heracross shows off by helping this Kimono girl out of the forest, and then on the way to Goldenrod City, we run into a Drowsy on Route 34. It ends up being super stubborn, but we eventually catch it, and Sleepy goes right into the box. I arrive in Goldenrod City and head to the radio tower. I need to pass their quiz to send Whitney back to her gym, but I'm already trying to devise a strategy for her notorious Miltank. Whitney's Miltank is a massive threat at this point in the game with its bulk, speed, and recovery from Milk Drink, and I can't even cheese her out with my Ghastly because of her scrappy ability. My initial thought was to use a Guts-boosted Heracross to Brick Break through her normal types, but because she doesn't lead with her Ace like Bugsy, I'd have to deal with some chip damage. I decide on leading with Lebowski to set up some defense scrolls on her Clefairy, but first I picked up some Protect TMs to disrupt her rollout damage, and then backtracked pre-poison Heracross on an Ekans. Feeling reasonably confident with my potentially overcomplicated strategy, I challenge Whitney. I managed to set up 3 defense curls and then interrupt a Metronome Skull Bash with Protect, but then she encores me into Protect and I have to waste a bunch of turns. Even worse, she hits a Metronome Torment, which prevents me from using the same move twice in a row, and then the Encore forces me into a struggle, and I have to take damage from Recoil. My Shell Bell does heal back some damage, but it's still more than I had counted on taking before even facing the Miltank. I alternate setup moves and Rock Throw to heal from Shell Bell, to maneuver around the Torment, and then I take out the Clefairy after a few rotations. Lebowski levels up mid-fight, which is allowable and a viable strategy for hardcore Nuzlocks, but I've taken more damage than I expected from Clefairy's RNG Metronomes, so I'm not feeling great about dealing with Miltank using only Lebowski. Miltank easily outspeeds Lebowski, but isn't doing much damage thanks to my defense scrolls. I chip away with Rock Throws and alternate extra Rock Polishes and Protects, but eventually Miltank starts using Milk Drink, and with enough flinches from Stomp, Lebowski gets into the red and I decide it's time for a new strategy. I figure that I need a safe switch into Heracross, so I decide to sack Bella, reasoning that I have another Grass Poison type in the box. Bella goes down, and that's my first death of the run, but it lets me safely bring out Heracross. Miltank still outspeeds, and then hits an Attract. I start to get really nervous as Hercules is immobilized by Love and takes extra poison damage, but thankfully he breaks through both the Attract and a flinch chance to one-shot with a Guts-boosted Stab super effective Brick Break. I'll be honest, I really wasn't expecting to get the one-shot, but I guess that comes from me never fully appreciating the power boost from Guts. Despite the one-shot, I still think sacking Bella was necessary because worse RNG from Attract and Stomp flinches could have easily ended the run there. Having successfully beaten Whitney with an acceptable sacrifice, Dr. Strange the Oddish joins the team, and I continue on north of Goldenrod with my newly acquired Squirt Bottle. Javelin evolves into a Fearow after some trainer battles, and I catch a Nidoran on Route 35. It does end up having the rivalry ability over Poison Point, but either way I leave the Mad Queen in a box. I decide to use the static encounter with the Sudowoodo as my Route 36 encounter, and I lead with Dr. Strange to try and get a poison powder for an easier catch. Unfortunately, he keeps missing, but after taking some minimal damage from flails, I finally get the poison off. However, I delude myself into thinking that it's safe to stay in and heal back some damage with an Absorb, and I get punished as Dr. Strange gets annihilated by a rock throw. I lose my replacement for Bella before he even has the chance to have an impact. I end up catching the Sudowoodo, and even though I originally planned on naming it Groot, considering how it stood still and casually destroyed Dr. Strange, I go with Drax instead. As a consolation prize for my poor decision making, I do get the berry pots, and I'm finally able to plant a citrus berry that I got from a phone call with an earlier trainer. My poor luck continues on Route 37 as I run into a Stantler that absolutely refuses to be caught, to the point where I run out of Pokeballs and just kill it. Afterwards, I do a bit more grinding to prepare for the upcoming rival fight and gym leader, and there it is, evolves into a Quagsire. The extra bulk and water absorb ability should help me deal with Croconaw now that I don't have any grass types to rely on. When I get to Ecruteak City, I enter the Burn Tower to once again find a gym leader and send them back to do their job. I also run into my rival for our next confrontation, but at this point my team has the variety and bulk to deal with them without much of an issue. There are actually quite a few more rival battles in this game, but they don't have too much variation and all turn out similarly, so I'm gonna start skipping over them. After my rival battle ends, I chase off the legendary dogs in the basement, and end up finding a Coughing as my encounter, who I name Sneezing. And then I stop by the theater to chase off a Team Rocket Grunt who's a bit too excited to be on stage. With the Team Rocket Grunt handled, I head over to Route 38 for some grinding, and catch a Meowth who I name That's Right. Shortly afterwards, Lowski evolves into a Graveler, and Nut Gengar reaches their final form as a Haunter. I'm now ready to face the Ghost Gym Leader Morty. Ghost types can be a bit annoying to deal with because of things like Confuse Ray and Curse, but Javelin's part normal typing is going to be really useful for immunities. Morty leads with a Ghastly, and a super effective Pursuit from Javelin takes it out in one shot. One of his Haunters is out next, and another Pursuit does over half of his health, but he hits a Hypnosis. I don't want to deal with unlucky Sleep Turns and Dream Eater, so I just swap to my own Haunter as Morty heals. Not Gengar is leveled up enough to have access to Shadow Punch, and one super effective hit is enough to take out the opposing Haunter. Morty's ace, Gengar, comes out, but it doesn't have a great moveset, so I just swap back into Javelin. I wait out the sleep turns, and even when I wake up, I keep spamming Mirror Move so that I can use up Gengar's Sucker Punch PP, and then I actually hit a Hypnosis. Gengar stays asleep, and with enough pursuits, he goes down too. The second Haunter comes out, but 2 more pursuits later, I defeat Morty and win my 4th gym badge. I make it to Olivine City, but before I can take on the local gym, Jasmine recruits me to find some medicine for sick Ampharos, so now I need to make a quick trip over the sea to Cyanwood. After picking up a few more encounters, I decide that it's a good time to revamp my team. I run into a Tentacool on Route 40 and found an Execute from a Headbutt tree back in Ecruteak, but the important find is a Magnemite from Route 39. Magneto the Magnemite ends up replacing Graveler to finally bring an electric type on the team, and I decide to train up the Zubat I caught back at the Slowpoke well as an eventual replacement for Javelin. I train up my team towards the next level cap, and the 2 new recruits both evolve. Bruce first evolves into a Golbat, and then with enough running around, he becomes a Crobat at level 30. Also at level 30, Magneto becomes a Magneton. I bring both of my flying types to the fight with Chuck, but I lead with a pre-poisoned Heracross. Chuck's Primate has Rock Slide as a counter to flying types and Double Team for some annoying evasion strats, but Hercules' Aerial Ace can't miss and gets the one-shot even without a stab boost. Poliwrath comes out next, and the poison on Hercules actually helps protect him from a possible paralysis from Body Slam, so after a few Aerial Aces, I actually clear Chuck's team without even needing to rely on either of my flying types. With that, Javelin gets a peaceful, if somewhat uneventful, retirement, and I bring some medicine to the Ampharos at the lighthouse, opening up the next gym battle. This part of the game can get a little weird with level caps, because while Jasmine is technically the 6th gym leader, she has a higher level cap than Price, with her level 35 Steelix outpacing Price's level 34 Piloswine. That being said, I'm well positioned to sweep her team with the dopey powerhouse that is There It Is the Quagsire, so I stay under both level caps as I take on the 6th gym. Quagsire is immune to her Magnemite's electric moves and can take it out with a single 4x super effective Mud Shot. Steelix is next, and even though Quagsire can't one-shot it with a Surf, a Citrus Berry stops her from healing with a potion, and after just another Surf, the Steelix goes down too. Up last is another Magnemite, but all it takes is another Mud Shot, and I've decisively won the next gym badge. There's more Team Rocket shenanigans to deal with before I can face Price at the 7th gym, so I head over to the Lake of Rage to fight the shiny Gyarados. I've purposely avoided fishing encounters where I would find a Magikarp so that this could count as a valid encounter, but I still decide not to use it. Gyarados is a powerhouse with the Intimidate ability, and I've used it a lot in the past, so in the interest of diversifying my Pokemon usage, I figured that I would keep it as a safe backup if something ever happens to Quagsire. I meet up with the champion, Lance, and together we storm through the hidden Team Rocket base, but the battles aren't very exciting as they're all underleveled. I pick up one of the Electrodes as an encounter, and with Team Rocket out of the way, it's time to prepare for Price. I make a quick trip back to Mr. Pokemon to trade a red scale from the Lake of Rage for an experience share to make grinding a bit less painful, and soon it's time for the 7th gym. Price leads with a Seal, so with the choice specs that I found at the Lake of Rage, Magneton can take it out with a single Thundershock. The incoming Piloswine is immune to electric moves, so I swap in There It Is. The first Surf does a lot of damage, but Piloswine sets up Hail, which allows for a perfect accuracy Blizzard, and its Snowcloak ability for increased evasion, and I miss my second Surf. I swap in Hercules, who takes a Blizzard pretty well, and I get the kill with the Brick Break. Out comes Dugong, but Brick Break takes it out as well in one shot. Even without the Guts boost, Hercules keeps carrying my way through battles. Team Rocket somehow managed to take over the radio tower, so I try and go undercover, but am immediately ousted by my rival, who doesn't even help me and just leaves. There's another fight with Executive Petrol, who has an entire team of Coughing and a Wheezing who can self-destruct and explode my team, but Magneto's Steel typing means I'm not that worried. At one point though, I get too overconfident, and a self-destruct from Coughing keeps me humble. A crit definitely would have killed me there, so I swap into Quagsire, who takes care of the rest of the team. I run into my rival again, and after another uneventful battle, I find the director of the radio tower in a basement. He gives me the card key, and I find Executive Archer at the observation deck. I actually forgot to heal Quagsire before the fight, and he gets all the way into the red while fighting Archer's Houndoom. I switch into Magneto to deal with the Coughing, and after a few Thundershocks, that's the Team Rocket storyline all wrapped up. On my way through the Ice Path, Star-Lord evolves into a Typhlosion, but that won't be much help for the next gym full of dragons. I decide to make some more changes to the team, and train up a Swinub I found in the Ice Path that I named Nubby, and a Vulpix from Route 48 that has the ability Flash Fire. Nubby is going to be the Ice type that deals with Claire's Dragonairs, and Vulpix is going to facilitate some safe switches. I evolved Nubby into a Piloswine, and then had the move tutor teach her ancient power so that she promptly evolves into a beastly Mamoswine. It's time to face Claire and her dragon types. I make sure to give Magneto a choice scarf that my mother bought for me so that it can deal with the Gyarados, and a single 4x super effective discharge wipes it out. One of the Dragonairs come out, and I assume that it's the one with super effective Fire Blast, so I swap into Vulpix to negate it with Flash Fire. My brilliant plan ends up not being as clever as I thought it would be, and Dragonair just goes for the Thunder Wave instead. However, now that I know it won't opt into a useless Fire Blast, I swap into Nubby, who eats a Dragon Pulse for about a third. Priority Ice Shard with a Never Melt Ice is able to take out the first Dragonair, and out comes the one I'm really worried about, Kingdra. Quagsire can soak up a Hydro Pump, and because Kingdra has only special moves, I begin to stack up Amnesia. The AI is back to its stat change obsession, so it spams Smokescreen, but Yawn can't miss, so I get Kingdra to sleep without much incident. I try to hit it with Earthquakes, but after it wakes up, I give up and use Yawn again. With all the Amnesias, Quagsire can even tank a Hyper Beam without breaking a sweat, and I swap into Heracross once Kingdra is asleep. Close Combat does almost 3/4, and after a Citrus Berry heals her out of potion range, another Close Combat does the trick. I have to deal with one more Dragonair, so I swap into Quagsire to ignore any Aqua Tails. We trade attacks, but after 2 Earthquakes, I've beaten the final gym in Johto. Before the Elite Four, I need to catch myself a Lugia. I head back to Ecruteak City to fight the Kimono Girls, and I decide to lead with Heracross to take out the Dark-type Umbreon first. Unfortunately, I overestimate my damage output, and a Brick Break leaves it with a tiny amount of health, allowing it to land a Confuse Ray. A close combat would have definitely one-shot it, but I guess watching Heracross tear his way through half the gym leaders made me overconfident. Bad luck with Confusion leaves me at half health before I can finish it off with another Brick Break. The Espeon fight goes relatively smoothly, but Flareon hits a Will-O-Wisp on Quagsire that halves his attack and chips away at his health. Jolteon leaves Heracross in the red, and after a lot of missing from Double Team Evasion, Nubby takes it out with an Ice Shard. Things have been going a lot more roughly than I had counted on, and my mistakes culminate in the final battle with Vaporeon. Quagsire, Magneton, or even Heracross could have probably all dealt with Vaporeon well if they were healthy, but instead I switch into Crobat for the speed. Fly does less than half health, but Bruce gets killed by a critical hit Surf. It's a safe switch into Magneto at this point, but I can't help feel that Crobat's death was very avoidable. I need to bring back Javelin the Fearow as a replacement flyer and head over to the Whirl Islands to face off with Lugia. The Kimono Girls summon him out of a waterfall with a pretty cool cinematic, and because I used a bunch of repels to avoid wild Pokemon, I think Lugia actually counts as an encounter even though I can't use him. I lob a Master Ball at him, and the Guardian of the Seas gets jammed into a box. Right at the end of Victory Road, my rival tracks me down for our final battle, but I'm still annoyed at losing Crobat, so I vent my frustration as Magneton sweeps nearly his whole team with Choice Specs discharges. I successfully make it to the Indigo Plateau, and with some final preparations, it's time to face off against the Elite Four. I leave Javelin the Fearow in the box once again, and my final team of 6 is leveled up to level 47 to match Karen's Houndoom. Here's also a quick tour of my PC boxes. I'm still fairly new to Hardcore Nuzlocke, so if you guys see any Pokemon that I shouldn't have left on the bench, let me know in the comments. Up first for the Elite Four is Will, the Psychic type user. His strongest Pokemon is only level 42, so he's not too much of an issue. Not Gengar can outspeed all of his Pokemon, and a Choice Specs Shadow Ball sweeps Will's entire team. Having access to the Choice Specs after the Lake of Rage really helps power up special attacking sweepers for what can otherwise be very difficult battles. Next up is Koga. The Psychic TM would have been amazing to help deal with both his poison types and Bruno's upcoming fighting types, but I don't have access to it yet, so I swapped the Choice Specs over to Star-Lord. Specs boosted Flamethrower is super effective against Koga's leading Ariados and 4 times effective against Fortress. Muck tanks a Flamethrower, but only goes for a minimize and heals back a bit of health with its Black Sludge. But the next Flamethrower still connects and it goes down too. His ace, Crobat, is able to outspeed and gets chip damage with a wing attack, but 2 Flamethrowers do the trick. Koga's last Pokemon, Venomoth, is also weak to fire, so Star-Lord successfully sweeps the second member of the Elite Four. Javelin seems like he would have been a natural counter to Bruno's fighting types, but I decided against bringing him along so that I wouldn't have to worry about coverage moves like Rock Slide and Thunder Punch. Instead, I lead with Not Gengar, who is immune to normal, fighting, and ground type moves because of his Ghost typing and Levitate ability. A Choice Spec Sludge Bomb takes out the Hitmontop and nearly KOs the Hitmonlee as well. He retaliates with a Swagger, and I swap into There It Is as Bruno recovers. We trade a High Jump Kick and Surf for similar amounts of damage, and then I swap into Not Gengar on the next turn. Hitmonlee went for another High Jump Kick, but because the attack doesn't land because of the type matchup, he actually takes himself out after crashing. Hitmonchan comes out next, and a Sludge Bomb barely doesn't kill once again. A Thunder Punch does almost half of my health, but I land another Sludge Bomb for the KO, and then I swap into Hercules when the Onix comes out. I go for a close combat for a quick kill, and now it's time to deal with Machamp. Bruno's Machamp has the No Guard ability, which means it can always land lower accuracy moves like Rock Slide and Cross Chop, but it can't bypass type immunities. I swap into Not Gengar, who ignores Revenge, and then I make the decision to sack Not Gengar in return for some damage. Not Gengar has already done an incredible job thus far, but I don't think I'll need to rely on him for the next 2 battles. Part of me was hoping that Machamp would go for a Foresight so that it could land its fighting type moves, but after taking about 75% health and healing with a Citrus Berry, it retaliates with a Rock Slide and is enough to take out Not Gengar. Rest in peace, my ghosty friend. Maybe you'll become a Gengar in your next life. Star-Lord comes out to clean up next, and I clear the 3rd Elite Four battle with another Flamethrower, but another death. The final Elite Four member is the Dark-type specialist, Karen, but strange as it sounds, Hercules won't be able to sweep this fight in the same way that Star-Lord and Not Gengar took out the first 2 Elite Four battles. Karen leads with Umbreon, and having learned my lesson from the Kimono Girl fight, I just take it out with a single close combat. Murkrow comes out, and even if its stats aren't that intimidating, I swap into Magneto to avoid a 4 times effective Pluck. It chips away with a Feint Attack the next turn, but a Choice Specs Discharge annihilates it. Her ace, Houndoom, comes out next with its super effective fire moves, and I swap into There It Is. But even with a Choice Scarf, I get outsped, and Houndoom sets up a nasty plot. Thankfully, a single Earthquake takes it out, and I don't have to worry about being swept by a boosted up Houndoom. I swap into Hercules to deal with Vileplume, and he's barely tickled by a Petal Dance. Vileplume is locked into the Petal Dance, so 2 aerial aces take it out without an issue. Gengar is up last, and it's got a pretty terrible moveset, but I'm still a bit nervous about maneuvering around its Destiny Bond move. Hercules has the Muscle Band item, and I taught him the Shadow Claw TM, but it's not enough to one-shot the Gengar. I fish for a crit as Karen stalls with full restores, but my worst fears are confirmed as Gengar uses Destiny Bond right as Hercules lands the last Shadow Claw. None of my other Pokemon would have been able to outspeed Gengar before it could land Destiny Bond, but thinking about it now, I could have tried stalling out the PP by swapping into other Pokemon. Focus Blasts could have done some serious damage to the rest of my team, so maybe it wouldn't have been worth it, but it still feels really bad to lose Hercules right at the finish line when he's carried so much of the run up till now. However, I don't have too much time to dwell on my losses, because now it's time for the champion fight against Lance. It's the last battle of the run, and I've already lost 2 strong party members, but if I can make it through this next fight, I'll have cleared the challenge. Lance leads with his Gyarados, and Magneto outspeeds with the Choice Scarf and clears it with a 4 times effective discharge. Charizard is up next, but another super effective discharge is able to take it down before it can land any fire-type moves. Lance's strongest Dragonite comes out, and a Fire Blast will not only kill Magneto, but do massive damage if I try to swap into Nubby. However, it is the champion fight, so I decide to sack Magneto for some chip damage and a safe switch into Nubby. Dragonite actually misses the first Fire Blast, so I take it below half health and trigger its Citrus Berry with 2 discharges, but the next Fire Blast gets the KO. Thank you for your service, Magneto. Nubby comes out next, and with her monstrous attack stat and a Never Melt Ice, I'm confident that Ice Shard will be strong enough to win me this battle. It's only 40 base power, but the priority is helpful, and Lance's 3 Dragonite are 4 times weak to it. Ice Shard takes out the first weakened Dragonite without an issue, and out comes one of Lance's 2 level 49 Dragonites. I go for another Ice Shard, and it doesn't kill. I start to panic as a Dragon Rush does nearly 3/4 of my health. I am seriously regretting not trying to do some damage calculations before the battle, and I have no choice but to keep using Ice Shards as Lance uses 2 full restores. I take out the Dragonite once the full restores stop coming in, and out comes the second Dragonite. I reason that once Nubby goes down, I'll be able to get a return kill with Star-Lord, but without any priority moves, I'm sure that I'll wipe to the Aerodactyl. I prepare for the worst, and go for another Ice Shard. And for some reason, Lance goes for a Blizzard, and it misses. I send off another Ice Shard while Lance uses his last full restore. And I get a critical hit. The RNG gods have blessed me, and the run is somehow saved. I am not completely out of the woods yet, and Aerodactyl comes out. It is really fast and can hit super hard. I land a priority super effective Ice Shard that does about 3/4 of its health as Aerodactyl hits a stab Aerial Ace. But Nubby is somehow left standing with 7 HP. Lance doesn't have any more full restores, and another priority Ice Shard wins me the battle. I've become the champion of Johto, and despite my mistakes, I managed to clear my first attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke. This run was definitely a lot of fun, and certainly fulfilled my intentions of a Pokemon game that would keep me on my toes. The level caps made sure I couldn't brute force my way through battles with an overleveled starter Pokemon, and I really took my time to train up a bunch of different Pokemon who rotated through my team. I will fully acknowledge that my champion battle was salvaged by an RNG crit and the AI's decision to risk whiffing a Blizzard, but I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope I can pull off another run in the future that's a lot less sloppy. Even now, I'm thinking that I could have used the experience share or some of the rare candies I found, and gotten Nubby to match Lance's level 50 Dragonite, in which case Ice Shard could have probably secured me the battle with a lot less sweating. All in all, thank you so much for watching my first attempt at a hardcore Nuzlocke, and stay tuned for a part 2 video, where I take on the gym leaders of Kanto and the true final boss of the game, Pokemon Trainer Red.